if you're like most agency leaders, most days you just want to know how to bring in new ideal clients, right? Well, I want you to meet Robby Berthume, co-founder of Bull and Beard, which is actually an agency collective, or what he calls an agency-less matchmaking firm based out of North Carolina. Robby, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Kelly.
So let's start with, why did you start Bull and Beard, and what was the reason for your recent repositioning as this agency collective, as you call it?
Yeah, certainly. So we started about 5.5 years ago. And before that, I had a 10-year history running an agency, leadership positions at agencies, and really felt there was this need for sort of a real estate agent that knows the neighborhoods and knows the schools and can kind of navigate down the path and connect brands with the right resources and the right agency partners, and kind of realized this in an agency environment, an agency setting. And that's when my business partner and I kind of looked at each other and said, I think we have a business model here where we can be a little bit different from traditional agency search consultants in that, we're not going to necessarily lead the whole dog and pony and bring on 10 agencies or 12 agencies for a review and a pitch and kind of go about it that way. But we're actually going to leverage real relationships and real vetting that goes into those relationships and make one-to-one matches. And so our model has always been very different in that we learn as much as we can about, what the brand, what the marketer is looking for.
So deep
And
discovery.
deep discovery with a
Yep.
lot of experience and, dirt under our fingers, having, kind of been there, done that in the agency world ourselves. And then educate them as far as, okay, you're asking for something, but your budget is maybe not aligned with what you're asking for. Or this is the type
I'm
of
sure
service
that
you're going to be
never
able to.
happens.
Never happens at all. That's a frequent discussion, trying to get budget level set, but basically qualifying the opportunity and learning more about the opportunity, and then looking through our database of agencies that we've done an agency review with, which is our way of vetting and determining who is the best fit. So we basically do a short list ourselves, and then decide where do we want to make a one-to-one match and an introduction, set up a call. But we don't stop at that point. We don't just make an introduction. We actually kind of facilitate the whole process. We're on the calls. We're, understanding kind of both sides. And, after that first call, we're talking to the agency, we're talking to the brand, we're getting both of their honest feedback. And I think they're really honest with us because we're, a third party that, they don't feel like they're insulting the agency or something like that. So they can
Right.
be really candid and open and say, hey, this is what's going on, and here's what we're looking for. And then we just facilitate the process all the way through to a contract or completion. And our model is a bit different in that we don't charge a fee or a commission to the brands, and there's no obligation on the brand side either. And so it's free for them to work with us. Procurement and the buyers don't need to add us to their system. There's no contracts to be signed. It's very easy to work with us on the brand side. Agencies pay us a commission for a 2-year period. It staggers down after the first year, and then pay it as a business development sales commission, basically, for that and repeat business. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of morphed. And then the collective question is, we were referring to ourselves as agency matchmakers, and really kind of placing our flag in the sand in terms of, hey, we're matchmakers. This is what we do. And I think the term matchmaker can be sometimes confusing in that context. And I probably there's lots of horns honking outside, but
That's all right.
on the matchmaking side, we did some research and a little bit of focus groups, and determined that the concept of an agency collective just resonated a lot more with brands and with marketers in particular, as well as agencies, and they really understood better what it is that we do. Collective as a term is being used more and more, oftentimes for, we have a collective of freelancers or that sort of thing. Our model is more, we're an agency of agencies. We're essentially an interface into hundreds of vetted and vouched for agencies, and that's where we embrace the collective aspect. And I think that the next evolution of the collective is we also have a community for agency owners. We're working on a directory platform for agencies that is really editorialized listings, and so. I think the collective will become sort of a membership model with agencies that want to work with us, and so then they can be in the community, they can be connected to opportunities that we have, as well as in the directory, getting exposure on that level. So kind of a trifecta of value on that side.
So let's dive into the business model itself a little bit, because I love how unique it is, how out of the box it is. And you touched upon already, that you have these various offerings for the agencies. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit more, and like what the audit looks like, and even, even to the point of like how you determine which is going to be the best agency for, the fit?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, so really from a vetting perspective, we typically start with an agency review, and that's the essentially a 1 hour deep dive discovery call. We have an interview, a questionnaire that we've refined over the years and gotten better at asking the right questions, but really learning about the agency's positioning, their vision, their values, of course, category experience and capabilities, their weaknesses, really going from the inside out to learn as much as we can to kind of paint that picture for us from a matchmaking perspective. We have a higher level called agency evaluation. And with the agency evaluation, we actually do a little bit more vetting when it comes to doing a SWOT analysis, a competitive analysis, some more pieces to that puzzle to give us a fuller picture. And really, the more vetted the agency is, the higher they essentially rank in our database and our system, and we go towards trust. We gravitate towards trust, and that's what builds that trust is the vetting process. And so when we're doing a search, when we have something come in and for instance, there's a PR search, they want a PR agency for a specific project in mind. We're going to look at the variables in the project and those components, but then we're going to look at a lot of different factors. And some of those factors are certainly capability, certainly category experience, but also things like their character, their culture, their communication, different factors like that really just give us a better sense for are they going to have chemistry when it comes to the relationship with the brand. And a lot of times, I think it really the center of it is capability and category, but the if factor is just their communication capability, their ability to sell themselves, to talk, to explain, to articulate, make them feel comfortable, that sort of thing. And so even though we have the vetting, we also have, I think the more matches that we make with agencies to brands, we become more and more comfortable with those agencies because we see how they run their sales process. We see what kind of materials they put in front of the agency and get a good comfort level that they're going to be able to come in and really make a strong impression. And there are other agencies where, on paper, everything looks great and I'll make an introduction and then get on a call and it's like, oh my gosh, like how is it, how is this happening? And then I have to be careful to consider, okay, well, next time around, are they going to be the best match? Because it's
Right.
not just the best agency for the project or for the retainer or the opportunity. It's the agency that can sell themselves. It's the
Right.
agency that can get on the call and actually, make a sale and grow the relationship. The other side of it is we have a 2-year commission structure.
Right.
And so we're looking at agencies that can come in, maybe with a project opportunity and turn that thing into a retainer and grow incrementally. And we'll support them in that as part of our role. But that's definitely important to us as
Yeah.
well.
So a couple of things that you noted there. It sounds like your vetting process and your evaluation and assessment of an agency is pretty holistic. I mean, it's not just the service offerings and maybe who's in their client roster, but it really comes down to, can they develop rapport with the client?
Yeah.
Are they going to be that good personality match? Are they really aggressive when they sell, or do they take a softer, more consultative approach? So I love the fact that you're not just looking at it as, hey, this agency does X, so they would be a good fit. I think that's really important, and it's something that I think probably sets you apart from other. There aren't that many other agency collectives, but there are certainly people who refer agencies to clients a lot. And
Yep.
I think that is the if factor, like you called it. And I think that's incredible. And so,
Yeah, and I think and part of it is I think there's this intuitive ability that we've developed and honed not only over the last 5.5 years, but just in the agency world in general, where you get this level of gut instinct around relationships and around what kind of people are going to mesh with other kind of people. And so it comes into play even when it's I'm working with a Fortune 250, for example. I'm looking at, okay, the marketing director, what is their age? What are they about? What's their personality? Who's the decision maker on top of them? That's
mhm,
maybe the VP of marketing, and really trying to determine what's going to be a good fit from a personality level, because the capability and category experience is not that hard to find, but chemistry is hard to find. And
yeah,
so finding the right kind of dynamic for the marketing director sometimes might even be different. It might be a situation where the marketing director likes one choice and the VP of marketing likes another choice, maybe a more conservative choice that
Right.
makes them feel a little safer, because risk is a big thing and B2B decision making and the Fortune 250 level, especially risk is a big factor.
Mm.
So I think that's a big part of it is the profiles and the vetting that we do, but there's also this level of intuition where we have to kind of trust our guts and say, that's somebody that I'd work with, and that's somebody that these personalities are gonna gel well together because, I think at the end of the day, people want to work with people they like, they
Yeah.
enjoy working with, that shares their values, their
And
sense
it's
of
a really
humor.
intimate relationship, so they
It
have to
is.
enjoy
It
like
is.
working together.
Right, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So if agency leaders who are watching and listening, they're interested in, being a part of your stable or getting involved in some way, maybe going through that audit process, where do they start first?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, we have so the agency stable is our private community on Facebook. It's a private group, and we've got a few hundred agency owners. It's primarily agency owners. There's some coaches and consultants that I think really contribute to the conversation. But that's a great first step. There's no cost. It's free. You can find the link by going to our website, bullandbeard.com, scrolling down, and there's three communities that we run: the Founders Salon, the CMO Rodeo, and the agency stable. And so the agency stable, click that button. There's a little application just to make sure you're an agency owner, get your URL, that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then join that community. And there's a great, vibrant community there. So I'd say that's step number one. And then step number two, I think, is really, looking at our website and looking at, what we're doing and what we're about. And I think deciding, hey, is it worth it to, to be a part of the collective? The entry fee or the cost essentially is the agency review, is the vetting. We charge $250, which is a one-time fee for the vetting process, the initial vetting process, and that's it. It's not a recurring fee. I mean, once you're in, you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of your ticket to the rodeo. And that allows us to do that 1 hour deep dive discovery call, schedule that agency review. And then the next step I mentioned is, something that we're working on now, which is called Agency Match, which is going to be a editorialized directory of agencies in our collective, but written from our perspective, kind of an Ebert and Roper style directory, where it's this third party point of view. And that will be another, kind of way to get involved. We'll have probably a listing population to write the editorialized listing, a small fee to do that, and a monthly listing fee. But that'll be a way for us to essentially reveal our black book to brands that want to kind of choose their own adventure and look at agencies that are in our collective and maybe not necessarily use us as real estate agents. So kind of like a real estate agent or broker might have a website with listings, the same concept here where we have our listings and then you can work with us if you actually want more of the hand holding and support from our side.
So how does that work from the directory standpoint then, if it is sort of like more of a DIY model for the brands or for the clients? Are they getting access to this private listing so that they found that particular agency or a couple of agencies through that? Or is it just sort of the honor system, or how does that work from your standpoint?
Yeah, so basically the directory is a bit different in that, we're not going to have commission structure in place. And so agencies will pay the listing fee and the setup fee to get their listing started. And that'll help, I think, also with agencies struggle oftentimes with their own positioning and their own elevator pitch, essentially. And so, part of the listing will be their positioning statement, elevator pitch, and then things like category experience, clients, character, all that good stuff. In terms of our review, our profile on the agency. And every agency has to go through the agency review vetting process and then be approved to join the directory. And so there's definitely some barriers to entry to make sure that it's very high quality.
Mm-hmm.
From then on, for brands, it's literally a matter of browsing agencies by category, by capability, that sort of thing, and finding agencies that they want to talk with. We'll probably have a mechanism where they can input RFP style, budget, scope, stuff like that, and then we can step in and help with the search, and then that's when a commission would apply.
Okay.
But if they're just navigating the listings on their own and want to reach out to the agency on their own, they're going to be able to do that, and that'll be the benefit of having a listing and paying that listing fee for the directory members.
Right. Okay. So as we start to wrap up, I did want to ask you about something. I read an article recently that sort of said that it was positioned in a way that Bull and Beard is essentially you're the bull and Jason's the beard. I have to ask you, where did that come from, and like how true is that?
Yeah, it's pretty true. I mean, it's interesting because we came up with the name. I actually came up with the name before meeting Jason. I was down in Tampa with some agency buddies, and we were having drinks and just talking about agency names and what we wanted to do and what the next chapter is, and came up with this name together. And I said, hey, I want that. I'm taking it, guys. And they said, okay, you got it, yours. And it was Bull and Beard. And the idea was, at the time, this kind of, play off a last name and last name. A lot of agencies, the way that they do it, it's alliterative, it's easy to spell, it's, alphabetically correct, all that good stuff.
Right.
And that was it. We went running with it and developed out the first site, and then we launched the business. Jason and I partnered up, and basically we went to our first meeting at an agency to conduct a review to learn more about them. And their first comment was, okay, so who's the bull, who's the beard? And we're just looking at each other like, okay, I guess we're archetypes of the brand, like we're going to play this role. But definitely I would be the bull in the china shop, kind of charging and getting things done, and just maybe sometimes a little too brash, but more out there. And then Jason is the beard, is just kind of reflecting, and is this a wise move? Is this a good decision? And, likes to think about things and ponder. And so we have a good balance, I think, as far as our business goes and our partnership goes, because, we're coming at it from two very different perspectives. And the other thing is, I'm a millennial. I'm younger than he is. He's, I think, Gen X, borderline baby. No, he's late Gen X. But it's enough to, kind of give us two different perspectives when we're looking at agencies or looking at brands or looking at projects. Oftentimes we'll both kind of see it from two ends and meet in the middle, because we tend to see things in common, but I think catch things from a different perspective. I'll be the first person maybe to be like, I don't know about these guys. Like, I'm very skeptical, and he'll be like, well, let's just give them time. Let's give them time, that kind of thing. So definitely a different relationship.
Yeah, and in a business partnership, whether it's an agency collective or an agency, that dichotomy and having that balance is so important, so that you have somebody who's a little bit more gung-ho and a little bit someone who's more conservative. So I would imagine that dichotomy actually works really well for you.
If it was bull and bull, this would be crazy. Yeah, it wouldn't be work. Yeah, it wouldn't work out. I mean, there's no way. And then, he's a lot more just stable and quiet and supportive, and just things that I'm not, and that certainly helps from a business perspective, balance each other out, and I think ultimately make better decisions and more balanced decisions, for sure.
That's what it's all about. So I will post links to the specific service offerings and different things that you have for agencies in the show notes, and just want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been great.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This episode has been brought to you by Workamajig, the #1 creative agency management software. Show notes at thrive.workamajig.com. Find out how your creative agency can become more productive and more profitable. Schedule your demo at thrive.workamajig.com.